Hey everyone, my name's Rachel and today we are going to be delving back into the topic of psychics, and following on from yesterday's video, we're going to be talking about hot reading. So as we discovered yesterday, cold reading is basically a technique for gathering information about potential clients in terms of asking very vague, very broad questions, watching a client's response and then kind of building on it from there, narrowing in on details that you think might be correct. Hot reading's a little bit different because it's not always done on complete strangers. In fact, it's never done on complete strangers. Whenever the psychic is doing a reading on someone and they have an idea of who they are beforehand, they generally use hot reading techniques. They'll usually combine these with cold reading, but we'll get into what hot reading is exactly. So this often happens in one-on-one readings where the client has kind of booked beforehand and told the psychic a little bit about themselves, even just their name. The psychic can go away and maybe Google information about the client. If it's a small community, they might ask around and get some information about them, find out what's happened in their life recently, who they are. When reading to kind of like whole theatres and things like that, sometimes psychics will have people standing out in the foyer and they'll be overhearing conversations and get information fed back to them. Sally Morgan literally has people coming to her readings fill out little like prayer cards of like who they want to come through and what's happened to them, or send a video message, things like that. And it's just all ways of gathering information about the people in her audience so she can make her reading sound more accurate. And of course, the psychic twins. I think they are notorious for this because most of their clients are famous, or they're YouTube personalities, or they're people who are at least known online. And it's very obvious, I think, that they go and research their clients beforehand. So basically, hot reading is all about doing your research. There's not a huge amount to talk about here without just giving some examples, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be just delving into this, showing you some clips, and showing you how certain psychics could have researched their clients beforehand. One clip which I absolutely love, which I'd actually forgotten about until Dan reminded me this morning, was a little clip that BBC Three did. Basically, they hired out this old factory and they filled the factory with all sorts of false information. So they put up a portrait of a random guy and said that he used to own the factory. They created a fake website, fake leaflets, and put all these out there on the internet and all these sorts of things with a whole fake history of the factory and, you know, how the owner had died there and all these things. And then they invited 3 psychics to come in and do a reading of the place and tell them what happened, what was the history. It's quite interesting. I'll show you some clips from it.
Earlier, I invited 3 mediums to a one-time Victorian chocolate factory where they all channeled the name George, an evil fat man who was the factory's first manager.
She's given me the name of George.
And I got the name George.
George.
It was George, yeah.
The only trouble is that George is part of a made-up story that I planted on the Chocolate Factory website a week ago.
I feel like he was quite angry about something as well.
I think they might be cheating, and I'm curious to see if they'll repeat any more of my fake history.
I think to really get to the bottom of this, it would be great if you could go into a trance.
I could probably go into semi-trance, but not a full trance.
George, did the horses hurt your legs, yes or no?
Astonishingly, Goldie has actually summoned the ghost of my made-up factory manager. Her deception is almost complete.
Goldie, can I tell you something?
Yes, love.
All the things that you channeled today, like, you know, George Bull, the American manager...
Yeah, you're going to tell me that he's got nothing to do with it.
Well, I have to tell you, that all came from a story that I made up.
Oh, did it?
With the help of a parapsychologist. And we put that up on the website.
Congratulations.
And did you read that website?
No.
So how did you know all these facts?
A friend of a friend.
But, I mean, are you still pretty certain about the George Bull thing?
I am, yeah.
I'll be honest, I chose the name Bull for a reason.
Because it's shit. Yeah, I know, I'm psychic. I knew that.
I don't know if you have to be psychic to work that out.
But basically, it was very, very obvious that these people had literally just gone away and done their research and read up on the website, the leaflets, picked up on these fake clues and cues that were put around the factory, and they'd use that to come up with a story for their reading, saying that this was information that they got from the spirits, when really it wasn't. They'd just gone and done a little bit of Googling. And the fact that none of this stuff ever happened proves that they could have got that information from nowhere else but the fake websites and information that was set up. Next up, we had a case of Sally Morgan, who I think is one of the most annoying psychics here in the UK. I really don't like her. She annoys me so much. But that's just a little bit of a personal preference. I'm sure she might be a lovely person in real life, but what she does for a living just kind of rubs me the wrong way. So it has been long suspected and debated that Sally Morgan uses an earpiece in her shows. She says that all she has is a microphone, like a kind of like clip-on one that she uses, and she doesn't get any information from it that way. But then a story came out, quite interestingly, about how someone who'd gone to see her show was sat in the back of the theatre and overheard voices saying just facts about people and things into a microphone, and that seconds later, Sally repeated that stuff on stage. So people think that she's wearing an earpiece for that reason, and that she's getting information from a crew of people. Another piece of proof of this is that in one of her documentaries, you see her come off stage and literally take what looks like an earpiece out of her ear. And it's a little bit unclear whether this was any kind of earpiece that was feeding her information, but it's just another kind of like clue as to how this could be happening. This all sounds a little bit conspiracy theory-ish, but bear with me. Because the interesting thing is that if you go and you look at her live shows, she has a lot of ways of gathering information about her audience before they've even got to the theatre or the auditorium or wherever it is. So she has people literally send in video messages to their dead loved ones. She has people fill in little prayer cards writing who they want to come through, and, things that have happened in their life or questions they have for the spirits. She is notorious for having people in the foyer listening to conversations and feeding them back to her. These are all ways of how she gathers information on her audience before they're even in the room with her. So going back to the Psychic Twins, because they are annoyingly well known here on YouTube. I went through a couple of their videos, as many as I could stand, and watched a few things, and within kind of like 10-20 minutes came up with a whole bunch of clips that kind of suggest maybe they could have very easily just Googled the people they're reading for, or picked up on cues around the room, or they just looked at their YouTube page, something like that. The first example of this I found was when the Psychic Twins read for Trisha Paytas. Now, everyone knows that Trisha is very open about her life online. She talks about a lot of things, she posts a lot of things, she's just kind of very willing to let it all out there. Back in December 2015, she filmed a reading with the Psychic Twins where they told her some really obvious things, some really, really obvious things. For example, they talk about how you're such a talent. I feel like singing is a big part of your life. You should keep singing. Are you coming out with new music soon?
You are such a talent, and I'm feeling, singing for you coming up, and it feels so good to me. And I just feel like keep singing because you have a wonderful voice.
Really?
Yes, and
you're incredibly talented.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
And you're coming out with some new music soon, is what I'm feeling. Is that true?
I am.
And then you look at her YouTube page, and literally she released a new single the month before. Literally a month before. There's another case where they were telling her like, I feel like Marilyn Monroe's kind of like a spirit guide for you, like a guardian angel. She's stood right next to you right now.
You know what I'm picking up around you, Trish? Marilyn Monroe's energy is coming in around you.
Oh,
really?
Yeah,
so
I love
much
her.
so.
She is really coming in, and
Really?
I love her. We used to impersonate her.
Really?
Oh my God, I can totally feel her.
I'll show you the
around
picture.
I want to. She's standing right here.
Oh my god, that's so creepy. That's
And this is what I said in my first video about psychics, about how they like to feed the ego, because it's very obvious that Trisha is a Marilyn Monroe fan. Just months before, she filmed a video where she did a photo shoot dressed entirely as kind of like classic Marilyn Monroe, and she absolutely loves it. She talks about her a lot, and she had a painting of Marilyn Monroe next to her while they were doing the reading.
She's floating around.
Oh my God, I don't want to upset her though either. Say hey.
Wait, is that her on that
Hey,
painting?
girl.
That's
my painting.
Oh, okay. Oh my God.
Maybe that's why she's standing.
Yeah, right. She's always with you guys.
It's my painting. You're very connected with Marilyn's energy.
I know, I mean, if this stuff isn't researched, then I would be very, very surprised. It's the same thing with their apparent predictions. Apparently they predicted 9/11. They said it was going to happen, and then you go back and you listen to their radio show where they told people that. They definitely are guilty of shotgunning a little. When they were listing out the places that they thought might have terrorist attack, they just listed out a lot of places, and one of them just happened to be the World Trade Center. And the thing is, that's not surprising, because an attempt at a terrorist attack on the World Trade Center had happened like in the early 90s apparently, and there'd been threats on it for a while, and people had been threatening to do this. All you had to do was watch the news. That's not to say that we knew 9/11 was going to happen, but we're saying it was likely that there would have been a terrorist attack, and out of all the places it could have been, the World Trade Center was a very, very likely target. It's not some miracle that they predicted this. It's just having a little bit of knowledge of current events. That's all it is. A lot of psychics are guilty of doing this when they make these big predictions. And you'd be surprised how much some psychics rely on this kind of thing. Darren Brown did a great program where he worked a little bit with, I think it was a Liverpool-based psychic called Joe Powers. And Joe did 2 readings on the program. One was full of misses, it was pretty terrible, and that was an appointment that Darren had set up for him. Another one was an appointment that Joe had set up himself with a client, and she was very impressed. Joe got a lot of things right. He did really well. And then it came out later that that his sister lived next door to the woman.
After I finished filming with Joe, something came up concerning his reading with Vonda. Joe's always maintained he'd never met her before, which Vonda has confirmed, and Joe told us she did not give him any information. Joe has always said he did not know any of her details, but what I've discovered is that Vonda's next-door neighbour is in fact Joe's sister. Now I asked Joe for clarification. Joe said that he had been surprised to find out that Vonda lived next door to his sister. And he went on to say that since he's read for many people in that particular area of Liverpool and that particular street, he put it down to no more than a mere coincidence.
Like, the amount of stuff that he got right, and that he hit on, I could probably tell you that about my neighbours as well. I could probably tell you that about my parents' neighbours. So while it might seem exciting and impossible to know these personal things about complete strangers, often they're not complete strangers. Often you can gauge all sorts of information about someone, especially nowadays, just by looking at their Facebook profile, their Instagram, their Twitter. And hell, you could probably tell so much about me just from this YouTube channel. The last example I want to talk about is one that I find quite funny. It's about a reading they did on This Morning with a psychic. They basically, she reckoned that she could tell all sorts of stuff about people, from holding objects, from feeling the energy from objects, things like that. So they got 3 different celebrities in, and probably not celebrities by the US standards, you might not know these people, but they're at least reasonably well known in the UK. And they each picked an item. One of them picked an item that was really personal to them. One of them, it was literally just something they'd started eating that morning, and the other one found a bouquet of flowers and literally just picked a rose from it, their favourite rose, a flower. And this psychic reckoned she could tell so much about the person whose item it was just from feeling the item. Turns out she got it all very, very wrong. One person, she even messed up their gender. She was like, oh, this is definitely a lady, I'm getting very, very feminine energy from this. It was a man.
I feel real strong creativity with her. She's passionate.
You know it's a her?
Yep, it's
a
feminine
ladies'
watch.
Ladies'
Yes, of course.
watch, right?
Feel real strong passion. She's driven, she's artistic, she's creative. I get words and writing. And she's not flamboyant, she's very sophisticated. But I feel there's a very strong sort of flamboyance about her.
Okay.
And an amazing friend. She's very loyal. And I feel with her very much what you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get.
No
Loyal.
warts and all.
Right.
She's, as you see her, that's how
so
she is.
career, what sort of career?
Career-wise, I'm going to say either
anything.
writing, creative. So she's somebody, either she's got a book or it feels almost feeling of writing. I don't feel actress. I just feel I want to write, or she's very good with psychology.
Okay.
So she's quite analytical in a way and a very, very deep thinker.
Anything else that would pinpoint her for her to say, oh, yes, that's a very personal thing?
I think home life is happy. She's, I would say, grounded, safe and secure. That's how I see her. There's certain areas that I can't mention, there's certain things that I can't say, but I feel, for me, it feels really, really great. She's a good person.
Let's bring this person
I'm
in.
not good at
In you
hitting
come.
cameras.
Who is that person?
It's a man.
And it is, it's a man.
But he is a woman. Oh, I don't mean that rudely.
It's a man.
Are you
In you
gentle
come.
and sensitive?
Welcome. Come and take a seat.
Have a seat, Lionel.
So obviously,
lovely to see you.
are
So
not
major gender
a female.
issue there. And,
Not at all.
And so what, writing?
No.
No, don't write.
Totally wrong.
No, wrong there. What were the other things that you mentioned?
I don't know. What did you mean?
Family life.
Family. Well, I've been married
Sensitive,
45
gentle.
years.
Yeah.
I've got 3 children.
Yeah.
3 grandchildren.
Yeah.
And when my mother died, she only left a little bit of money.
See, he said it, I weren't allowed to say it. That was
Yeah.
what I was linking with. Sorry.
Well,
And anyway, the money that I wasn't going to spend it, I bought that
That
watch.
worked. That's maybe why it's gentle and
that's a
feminine.
lovely story. But that was a major miss, I have to say.
major miss.
Yeah, couldn't
I'm
have been
sorry.
further.
So it seems that without knowing your client, without being able to pick up on these visual clues in front of you via cold reading, or without being able to do any research beforehand with your hot reading, it's very, very difficult to actually get anything right. But anyway, that is pretty much me done for today. I feel like I might have been a little bit harsher in this video than normal, and I'm sorry about that. I don't mean to be mean or anything, but I don't know, I guess it just rubs me the wrong way a little bit when I see people taking advantage of other people and people messing people about, people lying to people. That's what annoys me. But no, that's just me. Thank you so much for the amazing response on yesterday's video. I absolutely loved reading all your comments. It was really amazing. Let me know what you think about this. And for now, if you have made it through this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.